The world appears to be falling apart right before our eyes. His son has received a life sentence. Chumlee is trapped in a prison nightmare. A brutal family war is threatening to tear apart everything he ever built. The once unstoppable Pawn Stars empire is now hanging by a thread. Stay with us, because the real truth behind Rick's collapse is finally being exposed, and what comes next will shock everyone. The fall of a Vegas dynasty. Rick Harrison, now 59, is being crushed under an endless wave of family crises and courtroom battles. What began as quiet rumors about his son facing a life sentence has become a grim reality. The Pawn Stars empire, once a reliable cash machine, is looking more fragile every day. And just when it feels like things can't possibly get worse, they do. In the shadows of this crumbling dynasty, a betrayal is emerging that could change everything forever. Pawn Stars wasn't some lucky accident, it was built from nothing by Rick and his father Richard, a man as tough and straightforward as they come. Richard understood money, understood business, and had zero patience for nonsense. Fans loved his blunt, no-filter style. When Richard passed away in 2018, the shop didn't just lose its founder, it lost its backbone. A lot of people like the history lessons. There's a lot of different aspects to it. A lot of people like the family interaction. Kids love Chumlee. Rick did everything he could to keep things moving forward, but trouble was already waiting in the wings, ready to strike. Running a pawn shop in Las Vegas was never easy or glamorous. Late payments, razor-thin margins, and customers bringing in far more problems than valuables made every day a grind. But Rick had discovered a winning formula: storytelling. He understood that people weren't just buying objects, they were buying history, emotion, a connection to something bigger. That's exactly what turned Pawn Stars into a phenomenon: the rare, bizarre items and the even wilder stories attached to them. Then came the television show in 2009. No one expected it to explode, but overnight, Rick, his son Corey, and their longtime friend Chumlee became household names. From pirate swords to ancient coins, viewers couldn't get enough of watching them negotiate deals. Corey's sharp tongue, Chumlee's goofy charm, and Rick's masterful haggling made the show an instant sensation. But fame has a way of twisting everything. Lawsuits began piling up. Family fights turned ugly. The behind-the-scenes chaos became impossible to hide. By 2022 the problems were too big to ignore any longer. Rick's own mother, Joanne, dragged him into court over ownership of the shop. She claimed he had tricked her into signing over her share while she was recovering from a coma. Rick insisted she knew exactly what she was signing. The lawsuit demanded a full accounting of more than $500,000 and even requested a restraining order to stop him from selling off any shop assets. Toy Expo. It's an exciting event. It's been jam-packed from day one. So we're day two in this. I picked up half a truckload of toys yesterday. As if that wasn't enough, the pandemic slammed their business like a freight train. Once pulling in millions, the shop barely scraped together $37,000 in an entire year, and then there was Chumlee. On screen he was the lovable, goofy sidekick. Off-screen he was a magnet for trouble. In 2016 his house was raided during a criminal investigation. Sexual assault charges against him didn't hold up, but police found enough drugs and unregistered firearms to charge him with multiple felonies. He avoided prison through a plea deal, but his reputation was permanently damaged. Fans were stunned, and the show took a serious hit. Corey wasn't staying out of trouble either. Known for his reckless side, he got into bar fights and messy legal situations. In 2020 he rented an RV for a desert trip, wrecked it, and allegedly refused to pay for the damages. The owner claimed he left the vehicle trashed, littered with empty bottles and garbage. It was yet another public embarrassment for the Harrison family. Even the so-called experts who appeared on the show weren't immune to scandal. Johnny Jimenez Jr., a frequent toy expert, was charged in a domestic violence case. Then there was Drew Max, the sports memorabilia expert, who got caught up in a fraud scandal, allegedly authenticating fake collectibles and triggering lawsuits that created a serious credibility crisis for the show. As the years went on, fans started noticing something was wrong. Pawn Stars had lost its spark. The once spontaneous moments started feeling staged. The negotiations began to seem rehearsed. Personal drama was overshadowing the history and the deals. What used to be an entertaining look at historical artifacts had turned into a slow-motion train wreck of family betrayals and scandals. Rick tried to expand his empire with Pawn Plaza, a retail complex near the shop, but that venture completely failed. The businesses inside blamed him for not properly promoting the area. More lawsuits followed, and another ambitious plan went up in smoke. Meanwhile, the show limped along, but even the most loyal fans admitted it wasn't the same anymore. The once thriving empire was quietly fading, slipping through Rick's fingers one mistake at a time. Despite everything, Rick knew one thing for certain: the show wouldn't last forever. He scrambled to secure other investments, real estate, different business ventures, anything to protect his fortune. The shop had seen it all: big dreams, tough losses, surprising wins. But the next sellers brought a whole new level of drama: cash, collectibles, and cold-blooded deals. A guy walks in looking confident, holding what appears to be a £10 British note. But it's not just any bill, it's been defaced by the infamous street artist Banksy. The seller thinks he's holding a jackpot. Old man takes one look and isn't impressed. To him it's just vandalized currency, counterfeit money. And he's right. But the guy insists Banksy's work sells for thousands. Old man isn't buying it. They bring in an expert. Turns out it is genuine Banksy art, but not exactly a rare, high-value piece. Maybe a few $100 at best. The seller, once dreaming of a huge payday, tries to salvage something. He asks for $500. Old man says no chance. After a brutal negotiation, the guy walks away with $400. Not what he hoped for, but old man knew exactly what he was doing. Next up, a genuine piece of history. A Navy veteran walks in carrying an old sextant once used aboard the USS Hector, a World War II-era repair ship. The guy has great stories, and old man loves military history, so there's instant common ground. But let's be honest, this isn't the 1800s. Nobody is navigating by sextant anymore. The seller wants nearly $400. Old man knows collectors exist, but they're rare. He lowballs at $200. The seller pushes back, but negotiating against a seasoned pawn expert is tough. They finally settle at $265. Not bad, but definitely not the big score the seller was dreaming of. An old black and white panoramic photo of a World War II airfield in Las Vegas sounds intriguing. The seller walks in sure he's got a valuable relic worth at least $500. Old man barely blinks. It's interesting, sure, but there's a harsh truth: just because something is old doesn't make it valuable. History buffs might like it, but it's not flying off the shelves. Seller clings to hope and counters with $400. Old man stays ice cold and offers $100. The seller, shocked, tries to bargain higher. No deal. He walks out still holding the photo. Lesson learned: sentimental value doesn't pay bills in the pawn world. Nothing grabs old man's attention like a Civil War-era gun. Enter the Savage Navy revolver, a strange-looking firearm. The seller knows it's rare and starts high at $1,800. Old man isn't biting. He calls in a gun expert who confirms it's authentic, but explains why it wasn't exactly practical back in the day. The gun was heavy, awkward, not the most user-friendly. But collectors love weird history. Value, maybe $2,000 tops, the seller still dreams of a big payday. Old man throws out $800. The seller practically chokes. $800? Rick, no, that's not gonna happen. No, I'm thinking more like $1,250 though. I really am. What? I was hoping to get about $1,800 for the gun. They go back and forth, dancing around numbers. In the end, old man sticks to his guns. The deal closes at $1,400. Not terrible for the seller, but old man still walked away winning. That a signed baseball from the 1951 Yankees team sounds like a collector's dream. The seller has a ball signed by legends, Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio, and more. Sounds great, until you look closer. It's worn out. Signatures are fading. No authentication paperwork. Old man knows better than to take chances on sports memorabilia. He brings in an expert who confirms it's real, but in rough condition. High value? Nope, seller hopes for $3,000. Old man hits him with reality and offers $800, explaining that condition is everything. The seller, crushed, walks out still holding the ball. No deal, cue the nostalgia. A superfan walks in carrying a homemade Ghostbusters proton pack, lights, buttons, sound effects, the whole thing. Old man isn't impressed. He knows nerd collectibles have a market, but only for the right buyer. The seller is confident he's built something special. Asks for $2,000. Old man scoffs. Replica or not, it's not screen used. And nerds usually build their own instead of buying them. He offers $1,000 firm. The seller hesitates, but eventually takes it. He probably spent more than that building it, but now he's got cash for his next project. You wanna go watch Ghostbusters? Hell no, you get your ass back to work. I wish I could have got a little bit more money than $1,500. I had probably that much in it, but now I've got some money and a 6-foot-tall wooden Indian statue. Now that's an eye-catcher. The seller has deep nostalgia tied to it. It used to stand outside his grandfather's tobacco shop. But sentimental value doesn't pay bills. Old man checks it out. Good shape. Hand-carved. But let's be real, how many people are hunting for a giant wooden statue? Seller wants $900. Old man laughs and throws out $400. Seller fights for $600. Old man stands firm. If he can't flip it for profit, there's no deal. Seller caves, $400 it is. Old man wins again. Some days the shop felt more like an art gallery, big names, big hopes, and the razor-thin line between fortune and disappointment. Not all art is priceless. A guy walks in claiming he has a Picasso ceramic owl vase, hoping to turn it into serious cash. This wasn't just any vase, it was crafted by Picasso himself back in the 1940s or 1950s, part of a limited edition of 500. Limited edition sounds impressive, but Picasso made tons of these owls. Each one stamped, numbered, and sent out to the masses. Back then nobody expected them to become valuable. Fast forward decades, and now they can be worth real money, or at least that's what the seller was hoping. The owner had owned the vase for over 35 years. But with some downsizing happening, he figured it was time to cash in. He walked in hoping $4.35,000. Bold move. Of course Rick wasn't going to take his word for it. He brought in an art expert to examine it closely. The expert knew his stuff. He confirmed it was authentic, pointing out the correct stamps, markings, and pristine condition. Condition is crucial. Some of these vases have chips, cracks, or fading. This one was as fresh as the day Picasso made it. Then came the pricing reality check. Sure, some sellers list these vases online for $61,000, but that's wishful thinking. Realistically, this piece might bring in $25,000 at best. That's a lot less than the seller wanted, but in the pawn world, reality hits hard. Negotiations began. Rick threw out $15,000. Chad says it's real, and what he said about going online and looking at prices is true. With everything, people can ask all day long, it's what they get in the end that's important. Seller wasn't having it. They went back and forth, haggling like poker players trying to outbluff each other. In the end, $17,000 was the magic number. Not bad for a vase that had been collecting dust for decades. Another Picasso found a new home. Just when you think the shop has seen enough Picasso for one day, another one appears, this time a framed print from the 1950s called Goat Skull on Table, part of a run of 150. The owner had it appraised years ago for almost $19,500 and figured $16,000 was fair. The pawn shop crew wasn't dropping that kind of money without verification. They brought in their own expert. Turns out it was an aquatint etching, a technique that makes it look like a watercolor but isn't hand-painted. Valuable, yes. Worth $16,000? Not quite. After a quick call to the boss, the highest offer was $1,000. The seller hesitated, but ultimately took the deal. Another Picasso changed hands. Here we go, we got a deal and I'll shake your hand. You know the procedure, we go do some paperwork. I'm settling on $6,000, that's $1,000 more than I even thought I could get out of the book, so I'm taking it. But the Picasso parade wasn't finished yet. Another seller strolled in with 6 Picasso etchings from a limited edition book. He wanted $5,000 for them, banking on the fact that anything with Picasso's name sells fast. Here's the catch. While Picasso is one of the biggest names in art, not everything he touched turns into gold. Some pieces go for millions, others barely crack a few $100s. The experts confirmed they were real, part of a special collection of Picasso illustrations for a book called Lysistrata. The best part? The book was signed by Picasso himself. That bumped the value significantly. Retail price for the whole thing could hit $10,000, but breaking it up into individual pages might bring even more. Rick wasn't throwing down $5,000 without negotiating. The seller pushed for $6,000. After some back and forth, Rick agreed. $6,000 it was. Another set of Picasso found a new home. Now just when you think they've had enough Picasso for one day, another seller walks in with 2 more etchings. One was a dove drawing, the other was called Poor Roby. Picasso made thousands of these, but some are worth far more than others. The art expert took a look and confirmed they were genuine. But they weren't exactly rare gems. The dove print was a mass-produced lithograph, worth maybe $200 on a good day. Poor Roby was the better of the two, an early edition printed on high-quality paper. The expert estimated it could sell for somewhere between $800 and $1,500 in a gallery setting. The seller originally wanted $2,000 for both. Rick passed on the dove and offered $650 for Poor Roby. The seller took the deal, knowing it was better to walk out with cash than wait around hoping for more. Was Rick's negotiation a smart business move, or did he lowball the seller unfairly? Let us know in the comments. Like and subscribe for more intriguing deals, shocking revelations, and behind-the-scenes stories.